The stars were quiet that night. Commander stood at the observation window of Aegis 7, the orbital defense platform floating high above Earth. He had served in space for 15 years, and in all that time, nothing exciting had ever happened. No aliens, no invasions, just the endless darkness and the beautiful blue planet below. "Commander, I am picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Park from her station. She was young, only 28 years old, but she was the best sensor operator had ever worked with. Her eyes were fixed on her screen, and her fingers moved quickly across the controls. Walked over to her. "What do you see?" "Energy readings near the moon. They appeared out of nowhere. I have never seen anything like this before." Felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In all of human history, they had never found proof of alien life. But something in his voice told him that tonight would be different. The first ship came through a tear in space itself. It was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Its surface was dark and covered with sharp edges like a weapon floating in the void. Then came another ship, and another. Within minutes, there were hundreds of them blocking out the stars. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke, deep and rough, in a language that somehow translated itself into Korean. "Species of this world, we have claimed 1,000 worlds before yours. Surrender your resources and your technology. Resistance is extinction. You have 1 hour to respond." The message ended. Silence filled the command center of Aegis 7. "Commander's voice was steady but could see fear in her eyes. What do we do?" Looked at the alien fleet on the screen. He thought about his family on Earth, his old mother his sister and her children. He thought about every person on the planet below, sleeping peacefully, not knowing that death had come from the stars. He picked up the communication device and connected to Earth's United Defense Fleet headquarters. "This is Commander of Aegis 7. We have hostile alien contact, requesting permission to engage." The response came quickly. "Permission granted. All units defend Earth." Turned to his crew. Their faces were pale with fear, but they were ready. "Launch all fighters. Tell them to get close to the enemy ships. Do not give them distance." They had conquered 1,000 worlds with their superior weapons. Their ships could destroy targets from incredible distances. No species had ever been stupid enough to fly directly at them. No species had ever been crazy enough to fight at close range where the disadvantages meant nothing. But they had never met humans. Watched as 200 human fighters launched from stations across Earth's orbit. They were small and fast, built for speed rather than power. They fired their long-range weapons, and some human ships exploded in bright flashes of light. But the humans did not stop. They flew faster, dodging and weaving through the enemy fire. "They are confused," reported, watching the enemy movements. "They expected us to run or surrender. They do not understand what we are doing." The first human fighters reached the fleet. They flew between the massive ships, so close that the aliens could not fire without hitting their own vessels. Human pilots launched missiles at point-blank range, targeting engines and weapon systems. Small explosions appeared across the alien fleet. On the command ship, High Commander watched in disbelief. In 300 years of conquest, he had never seen this. Every species calculated the odds, saw that resistance was hopeless, and surrendered. It was the logical thing to do. But these creatures, these humans, were flying directly into death, and they were smiling. "What is wrong with them?" growled to his officers. "Do they not understand they cannot win?" "Perhaps they are too primitive to understand," one officer suggested. Shook his head. "No, look at their movements. They are skilled. They know exactly what they are doing. They have chosen to fight knowing they will die." He paused, troubled by this thought. "Destroy that station, the one coordinating their defense." 20 ships turned their weapons toward Aegis 7. Saw the energy building in the alien weapons. He knew what was coming. "All hands, abandon station. Get to the escape pods now." The crew ran. grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the nearest shuttle bay. Around them, Aegis 7 shook as the first shots hit. Metal screamed and tore. Fire erupted in the corridors. They reached a small shuttle just as the station began to break apart, threw himself into the pilot's seat and launched them into space. Behind them, Aegis 7 exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Looked out the window at the battle still raging. Human fighters continued to attack, but there were too many ships. One by one, the human vessels were destroyed. The alien fleet barely slowed down as it began moving toward Earth. "We lost," whispered. "No," said, his hands tight on the controls. "We lost this battle. The war is just beginning." He steered the shuttle toward Earth, toward the burning cities below where they were already landing their ground forces. He could see the lights of Seoul, of Tokyo, of Beijing, flickering as explosions rocked the surface. They thought this would be easy. They thought humans would see their power and give up. They thought wrong. As their shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere made a silent promise. He would find other survivors. He would fight back. And he would make the regret ever coming to this world. The first day of the invasion had ended. Millions were dead. Earth's orbital defenses were destroyed. They controlled the skies. But in the ruins of cities, in underground bunkers, in mountain hideouts, humans were already planning their revenge. They did not know how to surrender. They never had, and they were not going to learn now. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, but they had never faced a world like Earth. They had never faced a species like humanity, and they had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks after the invasion began, Earth was burning. The great cities lay in ruins. Seoul, New York, London, Mumbai, all had fallen to the ground forces. Millions of people were dead. Millions more had fled to the countryside, hiding in forests and mountains, waiting for the end. But the end did not come, because humans refused to let it come. In the ruins of Sergeant Hand crouched behind a broken wall, watching a patrol move through the destroyed street. The aliens were tall, nearly 3 meters high, with gray skin and 4 arms. They carried weapons that could turn a human to ash in seconds. They moved with confidence, like hunters who had never been hunted. Counted 12 of them. He had only 8 fighters with him, armed with rifles that seemed like toys compared to alien technology. The smart thing to do would be to hide and let them pass. Was not interested in doing the smart thing. He raised his hand and gave the signal. From the buildings around the street, his fighters opened fire. The first 3 fell before they even knew what was happening. The others turned, raising their weapons, but was already moving. He ran at them, firing his rifle, screaming a battle cry that his grandfather had taught him. They were bigger and stronger. Their armor could stop most bullets, but they had never fought an enemy that charged directly at them. They hesitated, confused by this strange behavior, and that hesitation cost them their lives. When the fight was over, all 12 lay dead in the street. Had lost 2 of his fighters. He knelt beside their bodies for a moment, whispering words of honor, before ordering his team to take the alien weapons and disappear into the tunnels below the city. 300 kilometers away, in an underground bunker that had once been a research facility, Doctor studied a piece of technology. She had not slept in 4 days. Her eyes burned and her hands shook, but she could not stop. Every hour she worked might save thousands of lives. Was a scientist who studied alien life. Before the invasion, her work had been theoretical. Now it was the most important job on Earth. "I understand now," she said to herself, staring at the alien device. "They are not conquerors, they are thieves." She had spent days analyzing technology, their language, their biology, and she had discovered something incredible. They did not create anything. Every piece of their advanced technology had been stolen from other species. Their ships, their weapons, their medicine, all of it had been taken from worlds they had conquered. They were scavengers, not warriors. They won by being overwhelming, by having so much stolen power that no one could resist them. They had never needed to fight a real war because every species they met did the math, saw the hopeless odds, and surrendered. "But we are not good at math," whispered with a small, tired smile. On the other side of the world, Captain sat in the command chair of the submarine carrier Silent Thunder. His vessel moved silently through the deep waters of the East Sea, invisible to sensors. The aliens had conquered the land and the sky, but they had forgotten about the ocean. That was a mistake. Had spent 2 weeks gathering information, watching movements, waiting for the perfect moment. Now that moment had come. A ground command ship had landed near the coast, coordinating the occupation of Korea and Japan. It was protected by shields and weapons that could destroy any air attack. But it was not protected from below. "All stations prepare to surface," ordered. "Load cruise missiles, target the alien command ship." His crew moved with silent efficiency. These were the best sailors in the Korean Navy, and they had been waiting for this chance. The Silent Thunder rose from the depths. Its missile doors opened. 20 cruise missiles launched in rapid succession, flying low over the water toward the ship. The aliens detected the attack too late. Their shield stopped the first 10 missiles, but the next 10 broke through. The command ship exploded in a massive fireball that lit up the night sky. Allowed himself a small smile as he ordered the submarine to dive again. "That was for," he said quietly, "and Seoul, and every city you have destroyed." The destruction of the command ship sent shockwaves through the occupation. For the first time, they had lost a major vessel on Earth. For the first time, they felt something they had not felt in centuries. Fear. On the mothership high above Earth, High Commander received the news with cold anger. He had conquered 47 worlds in his career. He had never lost a single command ship. These humans were becoming a problem. "They hide in the ground like insects," one of his officers reported. "They attack and disappear. When we destroy one group, 2 more appear. They use our own weapons against us. They destroy their own buildings to trap our soldiers. They poison their own water supplies so we cannot use them." "Then we will end this quickly," decided. "Begin the cleansing protocol. In 3 days we will burn every major population center from orbit. If these humans wish to die rather than surrender, we will grant their wish." The order went out across the fleet. In 3 days Earth would be sterilized. Every city would become ash. Billions would die. The countdown to extinction had begun. But in bunkers and submarines, in ruined cities and hidden bases, humans were already working on a plan. They had 3 days to do the impossible, 3 days to save their world. Received the news through a captured communication device. He looked at his fighters, their faces dirty and tired but still determined. "We have 3 days," he told them. 3 days to find a way to stop them. I will not lie to you. Our chances are small. Most of us will probably die." He paused, looking at each of them. "But we are human. We do not run. We do not surrender. We fight. Who is with me?" Every hand went up. In her bunker worked faster than ever before. She had an idea, a crazy idea that might save Earth. She just needed more time. In his submarine, plotted a course toward the mothership. He had a plan too, a plan that would require the greatest sacrifice. The clock was ticking, 3 days until the end of the world. Or 3 days until humanity showed the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. 2 days before the end of the world, Commander finally found other survivors. He and had crashed their shuttle in the mountains of Japan. For 2 weeks they had traveled on foot, avoiding patrols, eating whatever they could find, sleeping in caves and abandoned buildings. They had almost given up hope. Then they found the tunnel. It was hidden beneath an old temple, its entrance covered by fallen stones. Inside, they found something wonderful. Hundreds of people, soldiers and civilians from a dozen different countries, all working together in a massive underground base. "Welcome to the resistance," said the woman who greeted them. She was Korean, wearing a dirty military uniform with tired eyes but a warm smile. "I am Captain. We have been watching your signal for days. We are glad you made it." Looked around in amazement. He saw Japanese engineers working beside Russian soldiers, American pilots sharing food with Chinese medics, Nigerian scientists discussing plans with Australian commandos. The invasion had erased all borders. There were no nations anymore. There was only humanity. "How many survivors are there?" asked. "More than you think," replied. "Resistance groups on every continent. We stay hidden, communicate through old radio frequencies that do not monitor. We have been waiting for the right moment to strike back." She led them deeper into the base, to a room filled with maps and computer screens. There found familiar faces. Sergeant Han, the famous guerrilla fighter whose attacks had killed more than any other resistance group. Doctor, the scientist whose research had revealed the truth about the alien invaders. And Captain, commander of the Silent Thunder, who had destroyed the enemy command ship. "Commander," said, standing up to salute, "we have a plan, but we need a pilot, the best pilot, someone who can fly anything." Raised an eyebrow. "What kind of plan?" Stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. "I have been studying technology for weeks. I have found a weakness. Their ships all connect to a central computer on the mothership. If we can upload a virus to that computer, we can disable their shields across the entire fleet." "Without shields, their ships are vulnerable," continued. "Our remaining forces could actually fight them, but we need to get the virus onto the mothership. That means getting a team inside." "Inside the mothership," said in disbelief. "That thing is the size of a city. It has thousands of soldiers. How would we even get close?" Smiled grimly. "The Silent Thunder. They have forgotten about the ocean. We can surface directly beneath the mothership and send a team up through a waste disposal port. The aliens would never expect anyone to board their ship that way." "Because it is insane," said, but he was smiling too. "I like it." They spent the next hours planning every detail. 3 teams would board the mothership, and would go to the bridge to stop the cleansing protocol, would lead soldiers to the engine room to plant explosives, would access the central computer to upload her virus. "I must warn you," said quietly. "I discovered something else about the cleansing protocol. It is connected to the High Commander's life signs. If dies while the protocol is active, it will trigger automatically. We cannot simply kill him." "So we must capture him alive," said. "This mission gets harder every minute." As night fell, walked through the base, watching the preparations. He saw soldiers checking their weapons, engineers making final repairs to equipment, medical teams preparing for casualties they knew would come. He stopped when he heard voices in a quiet corner. A young soldier, barely 20 years old, was talking with. Her name tag said no. "Sergeant," said, her voice trembling slightly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why do we keep fighting? The odds are impossible. We will probably all die tomorrow. They have conquered 1,000 worlds. What makes us think we can beat them?" Was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Let me tell you something about humans. Every other species they looked at the numbers. They calculated the odds. They saw that resistance was hopeless, so they surrendered. It was the logical thing to do." He looked at her with fierce pride in his eyes. "But we are not logical. We do not calculate whether we can win. We decide whether something is worth fighting for. Our families, our homes, our future. These things are worth more than our lives, and we will fight for them until our last breath." Straightened her shoulders. "I think I understand, Sergeant." "Good, now get some rest. Tomorrow will be the hardest day of your life." Watched walk away, then approached. "That was a good answer." Shrugged. "It is the truth. I do not know if we will win tomorrow, but I know we will fight. And I know they have never faced anything like us before." Hours later, the team boarded the Silent Thunder. The submarine was crowded with 60 soldiers, the best fighters from resistance groups around the world. They carried captured weapons and human explosives. They carried hope. As the submarine began its journey toward the mothership, gathered everyone together. In a few hours, we will do something no species has ever done. We will board a ship and attack them in their home. Some of us will not come back, but what we do tomorrow will be remembered forever. We fight for everyone on Earth. We fight for every human who has ever lived and every human who will live after us. He paused, looking at their faces. Fear, determination, pride. We are human. We do not surrender. Let us show these aliens what that means. The silent thunder dove deeper into the dark ocean, carrying humanity's last hope toward the enemy. Above them, the mothership waited. Tomorrow would decide the fate of Earth. Tomorrow, humans would show the galaxy that they were not prey to be conquered. They were the predators now. The ocean was black and cold at this depth. The silent thunder moved like a ghost through the underwater canyons, its engines barely making a sound. Inside, 60 soldiers sat in silence, checking their weapons, thinking about what was coming. Captain stood at the control station, watching the sonar display. The mothership floated above them like a second moon, its massive shadow blocking the surface light. Around it, smaller hunter ships patrolled the waters, searching for any threat. 2 enemy vessels ahead, the sonar operator whispered. They are moving in a search pattern. Nodded calmly. Take us down another 100 meters. Use the canyon walls for cover. The submarine descended silently. Everyone held their breath as the hunters passed overhead, their scanning equipment sweeping the water. The minutes felt like hours. Finally, the enemy ships moved away. Clear, the operator reported. They continued toward the target. The journey took 6 more hours. 6 hours of hiding, waiting, barely moving. 6 hours of watching for enemies that could destroy them in seconds. Then disaster struck. A depth charge exploded 50 meters away. The silent thunder shook violently. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Damage report, ordered, grabbing the console to steady himself. The reactor room is hit. We are losing power. Chief engineer was already running toward the reactor. He was older than most of the crew, with gray hair and steady hands. He had served on submarines for 30 years. When he reached the reactor room, he saw the problem immediately. A crack in the containment wall. Radiation was leaking. If it spread, everyone on the submarine would die. There was only one solution. Someone had to seal the room from inside, trapping themselves with the deadly radiation. Did not hesitate. He stepped through the door and hit the emergency seal button. The heavy metal door slammed shut behind him. "Chief, what are you doing?" His voice came through the intercom, filled with shock. "My job, Captain," was already working on the reactor, his hands moving quickly despite the radiation burning his skin. "Keep going. Finish the mission. I will keep the engines running as long as I can." "It has been an honor serving with you, Captain. Now go save our world." Closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was steady. "All hands continue to target. We will not waste his sacrifice." Worked for 3 more hours. He kept the reactor stable, kept the engines running, even as the radiation destroyed his body from the inside. He died at his post, alone in the dark, giving his life so others could live. The silent thunder surfaced directly beneath the mothership. Above them, a massive metal ceiling stretched in every direction. Somewhere up there was a waste disposal port, a gap in the ship's defenses that no enemy had ever been desperate enough to use. "Boarding team ready," ordered. 60 soldiers climbed into small boats and began their journey upward. They used magnetic clamps to attach themselves to the mothership's hull, then crawled along the surface until they found the disposal port. "It stinks like death in here," muttered as they entered the ship through a tunnel filled with alien garbage. "Focus on the mission," replied. "Teams split up. You know your objectives, good luck. Took 20 soldiers toward the engine room, took 10 soldiers toward the central computer, and led the remaining 30 toward the bridge. Inside the mothership, they discovered something amazing. There were no guards, no security checkpoints, no defenses of any kind. They have never been boarded before, explained through the radio. In 300 years, no enemy has ever gotten inside their ship. They do not even have a word for internal security. They had conquered 1,000 worlds by being overwhelming. They had never needed to defend themselves. They had never faced an enemy crazy enough to attack them directly. Until now. His team moved through corridors designed for beings twice their size. The walls were covered with symbols and screens showing alien writing. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sour. Occasionally they heard voices in the distance, going about their normal routines, completely unaware of the humans among them. Engine room reached, his voice came through the radio. Beginning to plant explosives. We have maybe 20 minutes before they notice something is wrong. Computer room reached, reported. Connecting to the system now, the virus is uploading. Good, replied. We are approaching the bridge. The bridge door was massive, made of the same dark metal as the rest of the ship. 2 guards stood outside, relaxed and bored. Moved first. She was fast and silent, her captured alien weapon cutting down the first guard before he could react. Took the second. The entire fight lasted 3 seconds. They opened the door and rushed inside. High Commander sat on his command throne, surrounded by officers and screens showing Earth below. He turned as the humans entered, his 4 arms reaching for his weapon. But he was too slow. Soldiers spread through the bridge, taking down officers before they could respond. Within moments, only remained, surrounded by human weapons. What is this? Growled, his deep voice filled with confusion and anger. How did you get here? This is impossible. We are human, said, pointing his weapon at the alien commander. We specialize in impossible. Ran to the control console. I found the cleansing protocol controls, but there is a problem. She looked at with worried eyes. The protocol is connected to his life signs. If we kill him, it triggers automatically. The bombardment will begin. Laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. You see, even now you cannot win. Kill me and your world burns. Let me live and I will call my guards. Either way, humanity dies today. Felt his heart pounding. They had come so far, they had lost so many, and now, at the very end, they were trapped. Then's voice came through the radio. I heard everything. I have an idea. He is connected to his specific life signs. If we can put him in a coma without killing him, the system will not trigger. I am sending you the formula now. You need to inject him with it. Looked at the data appearing on her captured device. I can make this, but I need 2 minutes. Status asked. Explosives ready, replied. Just give the word. Virus uploaded, confirmed. Shields will be down across the entire fleet in 10 minutes. 2 minutes. They just needed to hold for 2 minutes. Stood from his throne, towering over the humans. Your time is over, little creatures. My guards are coming. You will die screaming. They could hear footsteps in the corridor, hundreds of them. They had finally realized something was wrong. Looked at, she was working as fast as she could, mixing chemicals from their medical kit. 2 minutes. The longest 2 minutes of their lives were about to begin. The bridge doors shook as soldiers tried to break through, and his remaining fighters formed a defensive line, weapons pointed at the entrance. Behind them, worked desperately on the chemical compound that could save Earth. 30 seconds, she said through gritted teeth. The doors burst open. Guards poured in, massive and terrifying, their weapons firing energy blasts that turned metal to liquid. 3 human soldiers fell immediately. Hold the line, shouted, firing his captured weapon again and again. The battle was chaos. Humans were smaller and weaker, but they fought with a desperation they could not understand. They used furniture as cover. They threw themselves at enemies twice their size. They died, but they did not retreat. High Commander watched from his throne, confused by what he was seeing. These creatures were losing. They knew they were losing, yet they fought harder with each passing second. "Why?" he asked, speaking to during a brief pause in the fighting. "Why do you not surrender? You cannot win. Your species is doomed. Accept your fate with dignity." Laughed, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. "You really do not understand us, do you? Let me explain something about humans. You have conquered 1,000 worlds. Every species you met, they looked at your fleet and calculated the odds. They surrendered because it was logical." He fired at another guard, dropping the alien with a perfect shot. "But we do not calculate like that. We look at our children, our homes, our future. We decide that some things are worth dying for. You have conquered species with better technology than ours, but you have never faced a species that would burn everything, including themselves, rather than kneel." "Done," shouted, holding up a small syringe. Realized what was happening. He tried to move, tried to call for help, but was already running toward him. She was small, wounded, exhausted. He could kill her easily. But she did not fight him. She ran directly into his arms, letting him grab her. And as his 4 hands closed around her body, she stabbed the syringe into his neck. Roared in rage. He threw across the room. She hit the wall hard and did not get up. "What have you done?" demanded, feeling the chemicals entering his blood. "Saved my world," whispered, and then everything went black. Tried to stay standing. He tried to give orders to activate the cleansing protocol manually, but his body would not respond. The human compound was designed perfectly, putting him into a deep sleep without killing him. His life signs continued, they did not trigger, and the High Commander of the collapsed onto his throne. The guards froze in confusion. Their commander was unconscious. They had no orders. "Did not hesitate. Detonate now, everyone get out." Deep in the engine room, pressed the button on his explosives. All around him, charges began their countdown. He watched his team running toward the exit, but he knew the truth. Someone had to stay behind to make sure they did not disarm the bombs. "Go," he told his soldiers. "I will hold them here." "Sergeant, we cannot leave you." Smiled, thinking about his family, his country, his world. "You are not leaving me. I am staying. Now go, that is an order." They ran, turned to face the guards rushing toward the engine room. He raised his weapon and began firing. The explosion started 30 seconds later, felt the heat and the light, and his last thought was that he had done something worth doing. On the bridge, grabbed unconscious body and ran. The mothership was tearing itself apart. Fires erupted everywhere. The massive vessel began falling toward the ocean below. "Report," shouted into his radio. "The virus worked. Shields are down across the entire fleet. Human forces on Earth are launching counterattacks. We are winning." Found an escape pod and threw himself inside with. He launched it just as the mothership broke in half behind them. Far below, Captain watched the massive alien vessel fall from the sky. It hit the ocean with an impact that created waves 100 meters high. The silent thunder rode the waves, its crew cheering. Across Earth, the tide of battle turned. Without their shields, ships were vulnerable to human weapons. Without their high commander, the alien soldiers had no coordination. Resistance fighters launched attacks from every hiding place. Military forces that had been waiting for this moment struck with everything they had. The who had never faced true resistance panicked. They began retreating to their ships, trying to flee, but many of their ships were already damaged or destroyed. The conquerors had become the conquered. 6 months later, Earth was rebuilding. The scars of the invasion were everywhere. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died, but humanity had survived. More than survived, they had won. Commander, now Admiral, stood at the construction site of humanity's first interstellar warship. It was being built with a combination of human technology and captured systems. When finished, it would be the most powerful vessel humans had ever created. "What will you name it?" asked Captain Park, standing beside him. She had recovered from her injuries and was now training the next generation of fighter pilots. Smiled the UES, for the sergeant who gave everything. Behind them, Doctor was leading a team of scientists studying the captured alien technology, not to steal it like they did, but to understand it, to prepare for whatever else was waiting in the stars. Then the communication system activated. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from deep space." An exchange glances, "Put it through." A voice came through the speakers, translated by their systems. It was not. It was something else entirely. "Humans of Earth, we have watched your battle with we are the peoples of 7 worlds they conquered long ago. We had given up hope, but you have shown us that hope still exists. We wish to make contact. We wish to learn how you did the impossible." Stepped forward to draft the response. She thought about everything they had lost and everything they had gained. She thought about, and all the others who had died so that humanity could live. Then she spoke the words that would echo across the galaxy. "We did not do the impossible. We just refused to accept that it was." Outside, the stars shone bright and endless. Out there somewhere, other species were watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. They had thought humans were prey. They had learned the truth too late. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not even the hunter. Humanity was the species that looked at the impossible and said, "Let us try anyway." And that made all the difference. The war was over, but humanity's journey among the stars had just begun.